Welcome to Mystic Realms Recap. Please like, share, and subscribe. Enjoy today's episode.
Summoning her bow, Shiro could feel a strange connection between her and the sky. Looking down at the bow, it seemed to come alive in her hands as the materials shimmered with a soft glow. Slamming her spare hand down onto the ground, nanobots surged over the roof of the building before solidifying into 6 pillars that surrounded her with equal distances between each of them. Mana amplifiers ready. Mana coils ready. Enhanced magic circle projection devices ready. Shiro muttered while nanobots continued to create pillars and constructs around her. Normally, this would be seen by everyone, but due to the fact that she was on the roof of the tallest tower in Tokyo, no one noticed. She had even allocated a few suppressants around the area so that the mana fluctuations would not escape the area and be detected by the people below. Taking a deep breath, Shiro glanced down at the city. "Keiko, I'm ready whenever you are," she said over the transmitter. "Got it. We're still trying to evacuate people right now. Give us another 2 to 4 minutes, and we should have the other shrines evacuated." "How strong will your attack be in terms of damage radius?" Keiko asked. "Don't know. Ever calculated how much damage radius a falling star can produce?" "No, why?" "Well, you're about to find out the answer to that question tonight. I'll give you a maximum of 5 minutes before I fire this thing. Any longer, and I won't be able to suppress it," Shiro replied. With her amplifiers running at full power, she could already feel the ambient mana surging towards her location. With each passing second, it was as if a huge balloon was being filled up to the brim. Flexing her fingers, several copies of Ataraxia appeared in the air and plugged into the amplifiers. Acting as external containers for this mana, the swords helped Shiro suppress the gathering mana for now. Around the 1-minute mark, so much mana had gathered to the point where it had coagulated into a mist of sorts that flowed over the edge of the tower. Without her nanotech constructs supporting the mana, it eventually reversed into its normal state. This had naturally caused some confusion as the top of the faction tower started to produce mist with flashes of light every so often. Around the 2-minute mark, Shiro could no longer wait and started the construction of her spell. Should she delay it anymore, her current setup would become a huge bomb that would no doubt erase the top of the tower. As she sent a pulse of mana through her hand and into the floor beneath her, a giant magic circle erupted out and started to absorb all of the mana rampantly. Despite it just being the first circle, the mana surrounding them had already decreased by a huge 30%. After a short moment, the first magic circle finally stabilized and avoided self-destruction. Gritting her teeth, she sent a second pulse of mana through her arm, followed by the third and the fourth. Each pulse she sent out would transform into another layer. Once 4 had gathered, it would float into the sky and become part of a bigger array before repeating the process. Just as the 4-minute mark arrived, a giant array filled with an uncountable amount of magic circles could be seen, as just the presence of it caused the surroundings to feel heavy from the pressure. Even though it was located at the top of the tower, the civilians below felt like they were suffocating. Some had even fainted only to recover after a short while. There were, of course, a few members of the Black Monarchy who wanted to stop this, but Keiko's trusted guards were protecting the tower, stopping anyone from reaching Shiro. Keiko, who was helping out with evacuation, could not believe what she was seeing. The magic array rivaled the power that she would usually see from the best mages around. Each circle within this array seemed to function differently, but somehow, she had found the right balance for everything to stay together and enhance the overall power. The amount of mana the array absorbed had risen to the point where mana actively condensed into orbs of light that flew towards the top of the tower in order to hasten the process. "How goes the evacuation? You might want to hurry up since the shrines are trying to activate. If not for my spell taking all the mana, they would have summoned what they wanted." Shiro's strained voice could be heard over the transmitter. "Almost done. Just give us a moment," was all Keiko could say, since there were a few uncooperative people, but they dealt with that through knocking them out. They can explain how their life is more important after they solve this emergency. Once she received a green light from her subordinates, Keiko immediately turned on the transmitter. "We're done here. You can fire your spell." "Good," Shiro grinned. Removing her hand from the floor, Shiro looked up at the glowing array that was several hundred times bigger than her. Remembering her feeling of obliterating cities with a single attack, Shiro closed her eyes and focused her mind on controlling the mana. So far, she had avoided frying her mana links through the use of different catalysts and disposable substitutes. She had to spend mana creating these while the mana coils helped her regenerate the mana spent. This constant loop of using and regenerating allowed her to create this beast of an array. Pulling back on the strings, she activated the spell that she had spent 5 minutes to construct. Shooting up into the sky, the spell started to expand uncontrollably as it soon covered a large portion of the city of Tokyo. For the naive ones, it was just a light show. For the ones closer to the origin, it was a horrifying sight due to the sheer amount of mana that was being emitted by the array. The more Shiro drew back on the strings, the brighter the array shone. A secondary array could be seen surrounding the light arrow that had formed as cuts could be seen along her arm. If not for her insane regeneration that was being enhanced by a few accessories that she had created, her arm would be shredded to pieces due to the mana she was controlling. But the pain didn't bother her at all since she was just grateful that she could reduce the amount of stress on her mana links. Scanning through her memories for any more ways to further increase the damage of her spells, she came across a file stored in her database of a time where the mage in the hero party had educated her a little about magic. Normally, spells were spoken in the caster's native tongue in order to boost compatibility. But there were occasions where people can use monster tongue to further amplify the effects of the spell. Each monster tongue could be translated differently, but the most compatible language found by the researchers belonged to the spirit race. By using this language, they're able to amplify the effects of the spell, but the main problem came with whether or not the use of this during a spell would backfire despite its compatibility. Scanning through the pages of translations for the spirit language, Shiro soon pieced together the words that she needed. As she was currently the Sylph Queen, using such language shouldn't be a problem for her. Opening her mouth, she started to chant a string of words that shocked Nimue to her core. How does she know the ancient spirit language? Nimue widened her eyes in disbelief. With the fiery chaos of a supernova and the dead silence of the void, rain down the nebula's might upon my foes. Izul muttered the translation of Shiro's chant. Upon finishing her chant, the secondary array around the arrow started to rotate as the magic circles seemed to receive a burst of energy. Shimmering with starlight, the array condensed itself into a void black arrow that seemed to hold the galaxy within its body. Letting go of the string, the arrow shot up into the sky faster than what her eye could track. The primary magic array that expanded over almost the entirety of Tokyo broke apart into starlight and flew towards the arrow. A moment of silence reigned the area before several flickers of light could be seen in the sky. The light seemed to trace the image of several constellations before a ring of multi-colored fire spread out from each of the lights. Should one pause time in the next moment, they would have seen hundreds upon thousands of arrows descending onto the different shrines located around Tokyo. A thunderous explosion could be seen, but no sound followed. Collapsing within itself, a void seemed to have been created at the center of each shrine and started to consume everything around it. For Keiko, who was standing not too far from one of the shrines, a blink was all it took for her to be blown back by a great force and for the shrine to vaporize right in front of her eyes. Reorientation herself, she looked at the destruction caused and couldn't help but feel as though a hammer had just struck her in the head. Is this what a level 100 should be capable of? While the people of Tokyo were being shocked at the destruction caused, Shiro's body was currently shivering on the roof of the tower. Having discharged such a huge body of mana in an instant, there was no way that she was going to come out of the situation unscathed. All of her nanotech had been completely fried and reduced to dust. Activating her skill rejuvenation, her body was repaired back to its peak while she sat down and took a moment to calm down. Damn, despite my preparations, I still needed to use rejuvenation, huh? Shiro muttered while looking down on her hands. Attempting to clutch her hand, it seemed like there was still some delay due to the damage that she had suffered, but it should be repaired soon. Standing up, she looked over the edge of the tower and saw the huge craters that were scattered throughout Tokyo. Each one was present at where one of the shrines would be, and she could no longer feel mana being drawn towards their locations, which meant that they had managed to resolve the situation well enough. Shiro, Nimue called out seriously. What is it? We need to talk. How do you know about ancient spirit language? Only some of the oldest members of the spirit race know about this. Nimue asked. You see, back in my first life, our researchers had translated a large portion of the spirit's language. As for this being the ancient type, I'm not too sure. All I did was piece together some translations and use it to empower my spell. Shiro replied, Where did you even live in your first life? I don't understand how the ancient spirit language could be so easily learned. Nimue scratched her head in confusion. Well, there are still mysteries in regards to the worlds, so we can't say much about the colorations. But for now, let's just wait and see. No? Shiro replied with a smile. MN true. Nimue nodded. Focusing her mind back to reality, Shiro looked at her system notifications since she had received quite a few the moment she used the skill. Skill, Ancient Spirit Casting discovered. Due to your achievements, the Titan Goddess of Stars, Asteria, has noticed your presence. Received passive skill, Asteria's Blessing. Asteria's Blessing. By using her true name in a cast, you can heavily empower any star-type spell you cast. Due to Asteria's Blessing, Stargazer's Bow has received an upgrade. Stargazer's Bow, Orange. Asteria's Embrace, Orange Plus. User has created a new mass destruction spell. As you have not named the skill, the system shall grant one for you. Skill, Wrath of Stars, created. Raising her eyebrows at the notifications, Shiro wondered what kind of change the bow had received after getting an upgrade by the Titan Goddess of Stars. Asteria's Embrace, Orange Plus. Matches owner level, current level, 100. Plus 20,000 attack. Plus 20,000 armor pierce. Plus 15,000 magic attack. Plus 15,000 attack speed. Plus 10,000 ignore defense. Plus 40% critical chance. Plus 40% critical damage. Plus 80% damage when using a star-type element. Plus 60% suppression against dark-type enemies and elements. Skills, Stargazer, Asteria's Might, Goddess's Blessing, Bow of Stars. Stargazer. The power of this bow is increased proportionate to the amount of stars the user can see. In daytime, you lose access to multi-target attacks, but it is instead replaced by a single powerful shot that takes a while to fire again. A with tilde yes. Asteria's Might. Upon using this bow in a spell cast that involves the use of the goddess's true name, the attack will be duplicated and a second volley would be sent out. Goddess's Blessing. Each attack will be enhanced with the divine attribute and deal massive damage to anything with a dark element. Bow of Stars. Should the bow receive damage, it can slowly repair itself under the starlight. Soulbound. Shiro. Looking at the stats of the bow, Shiro couldn't help but want to recycle it just to see if she could take those skills as they are quite amazing. Especially the Stargazer passive that had received an upgrade since she now has access to a single powerful shot in the day. Previously, the bow stats would be weaker in the day, but that is no longer a problem. Not only that, Asteria's Might was quite an impressive skill as well. With this, she could duplicate any attack as long as she uses Asteria's name in a chant. Storing the bow away, Shiro turned on her transmitter. Keiko, is anyone hurt in the attack? Shiro asked. Yeah, but Shiro, when you said the destruction that comes after your skill is a little troublesome, I expected something mild and maybe ending with just the destruction of the shrines. You never told me that you'll construct a city-wide magic array to completely erase the area around the shrines. Sure, we can repair the ground, but what about the houses? Keiko massaged her eyes. Oops. Oops my ass. I swear. Despite your amnesia, some parts of you haven't changed at all, Keiko chuckled. Well, it should be okay now since I've managed to stop the summoning. I won't be able to help if they manage to resummon though. Shiro shrugged. That's fine. I doubt they'll be dumb enough to try this *T again since I'm still here. If I had helped out in breaking one of the magic circles, they might try again since that means I can't assist. But with me taking charge, whatever they summon is useless, so their best option is to just give up for now. But do you know the amount of *T I need to do after tonight? How much? I need to first give an explanation, organize a conference, explain why I broke one of the rules set out by the agreement of every big guild in regards to using a huge spell like that in the city and hide your existence. Yuki did say that there is someone targeting you, so I should cover your existence as much as possible. I see. Sorry for the trouble, I suppose. Shiro chuckled. Oh, please. We both know you felt satisfied with that, Keiko replied. But I'm glad that despite this memory loss, there are still parts of you that won't change regardless. Hearing the connection end, Shiro's smile faded away. Staying silent, she couldn't help but feel an awful feeling rising up in her heart. Kuromi, Kuromi. Do you know how sh**ty it is to take your place and lie to everyone who knew and loved you? Shiro muttered since she knew that Kuromi's spirit was listening. Shaking her head, she stood up from her spot and activated her disguise. After all, it would be quite awkward if someone saw her face now. ####. Looking at the destruction caused upon the shrines, the current group leader of the Black Monarchy frowned in annoyance. Why was there someone who knew of the spell in Tokyo? The only one that should have known is **starred Nantion from that sect and some of his followers. I doubt the information was spread anywhere else. He questioned the ones closest to him. We don't know. From our spies in the faction, it seemed like the faction master had been reunited with someone she knew and had spent the day with them. Maybe they're the cause. Perhaps. There is also the chance that they're part of this sect. We'll retreat for now and report back to the leader. With the hero still around, anything we summon would be killed before it even gets a chance to run amok. We'll have to choose a different city to summon Her Highness's avatar. The man shook his head and left the area with his followers. ####. The next day, the entire city of Tokyo was filled with cries of anger as their homes had been destroyed in the attack. Despite Keiko's explanation and the promise of repair, there were still cries of outrage. Some had even wanted to capitalize on the situation and get more than what they had deserved. Naturally, this had annoyed the hell out of a few of the faction members, since the F***ers are trying to reap rewards despite not doing anything. They were the ones busting their asses off trying to rescue everyone within that short period of 5 minutes. Had they been slow in their evacuation, there would have been human casualties in the accident. Keiko had the urge to lash out at the people since Shiro was the one who saved them, but Shiro only held her back and shook her head. While the public relations weren't going too well, there had been another hot topic on the net. Who was the one that fired the skill? Who was able to create such a delicate array? Despite some researchers checking out the recorded footage and the details of the array, they weren't able to figure out why it had so much damage upon activation. It should have destroyed the shrines with some debris left over, but instead, it had consumed an entire chunk of land, which was simply absurd. But the woman in question didn't really care about their analysis of her spell, since she knew the secret lay in the secondary array on the arrow along with the spirit language. Unless they were next to her, they wouldn't have found out. For the next few days, Shiro spent her days in relative peace as Keiko was dealing with everything. Currently, they sat in her room with Shiro once again drinking juice while Keiko slammed her head against the table. Careful, if you knock yourself out, the paperwork might stack up higher. Shiro smiled. And whose fault is it that I have to do this paperwork? Damage reports, finance checks, and the such, all because of one spell. You know, if anything, you should be helping me out right now. Keiko complained. Well, if you do it, you can guarantee it's correct now? There would be more trouble if I helped out and made a mistake. Shiro chuckled. Whatever. Keiko rolled her eyes. So what are your plans for now? I have a world leaders meeting soon, and I don't think I should take you. Mainly because they are bound to have disguise removal skills, so your identity will be revealed. That's the last thing that me and Yuki want. Keiko asked. I'm not sure. I have around another month and a half before the faction event in Varisha start, so I think I'll probably use this time to train with Lysandra. In terms of technique, experience, and overall control of her body, she is still lacking, so this 2 months should do plenty. Plus, I need to stop leveling up if I can, since I've already reached level 100. Any more would be bad. Shiro shrugged. Well, Lysandra is already using the training rooms we have here, and she occasionally spars with some of our members. Maybe you should do the same. Keiko suggested. So maybe like a trainer up until I need to go back to Varisha then? Shiro raised her eyebrows. Yup. You can also think of it as payment for having to deal with this aftermath. Keiko shrugged. True. In that case, then can you try to find me these ingredients along with some higher quality pills? Shiro nodded before passing her a list that contained the ingredients required for the Borealis rebirth. Not only that, she then decided to add some of her class-up items too. It would be quite helpful if Keiko could find them out on the front lines. The celestial stuff might be a bit hard since everyone's out to get them. As for the others, I'll try to get them if I can. Keiko nodded. As they continued to talk for a little, Shiro suddenly sat up straight and looked towards the door. Narrowing her eyes, she couldn't help but feel a slight foreboding feeling. Asterisk bang. Big sis. Kiyomi charged through the door with a huge grin on her face. Immediately flipping her body over the sofa, Shiro dodged the Kiyomi rocket and managed to avoid the most powerful hug of the century. Unfortunately, Keiko's paperwork wasn't as lucky since it was scattered throughout the room. Asterisk Poochie. Looking down at her broken table with scattered paperwork, Keiko's face became dark and looked towards Kiyomi. Feeling the sudden glare of Keiko, Kiyomi sat down immediately with a pale face. I'm sorry. Kiyomi apologized as sweat poured out of her skin. Keiko, before you kill her, make sure she doesn't scream or else it would attract too much attention. Shiro reminded as she drank her juice while floating in the air. Big sis, how could you do this to me? Kiyomi widened her eyes. Haha, I'm only joking. But seriously though, let's help tidy up a little, shall we? Shiro smiled softly. Just so you know, I'm not helping. Keiko massaged her eyes and sat back down. Sure. Though, now that I think about it, why is there so much paperwork? Can't you do things digitally? Shiro asked curiously. That's because of hackers. These are made with a special kind of paper that can only be signed by an ink sent out by the council. If paperwork is lost or destroyed, I'll have to request another copy from the council. Keiko replied. Hey, that's pretty annoying, isn't it? Shiro raised an eyebrow. Well, it's less annoying than having hackers claim the documents. Keiko shrugged. True. Shiro nodded. Anything sent over the net was insecure, no matter how private it was. With hackers hiding everywhere, even the most important government document could be peeked at and read without anyone's permission. However, it wasn't as if physical documents were any better. Helping out with tidying up the documents, Shiro and Kiyomi left Keiko to fill them all in while the two of them walked around for a bit. Shiro had already reapplied her disguise since they were out and about. It's taken you quite a while to get here, huh? Shiro asked. Well, I was a bit busy on the way here. I had been ambushed by some Black Monarchy members and took a while to fight them all off. Though I kind of wished I arrived sooner so that I could see your spell with my own eyes. Had you used that during the fight against Blythe, you would have blasted his ass back a few generations, ha. Kiyomi laughed. True. I've improved quite a bit during this time. Shiro replied before pulling out the tri-element crystal lotus. By the way, are you able to help me find out anything about this lotus? I had charged this F***er with 39 billion MP already, but it still hasn't been filled. She asked. Ever since she received this item, she had charged it whenever she had the chance, but even now, there were no signs of it activating. 39 billion. Kiyomi widened her eyes. Yeah, with my ManhwaRecap and some skills, I can charge it up quite quickly. I'll ask some of the mages I know if they have any knowledge about this item. But for now, I want to go see my niece. Kiyomi smiled as her eyes glistened with excitement. Haha, fine, follow me. Lisa had been spending quite a bit of time in the training hall. Fufufu. In that case, then I'll join in with her. Since she's your daughter, I shall teach her the family martial arts. Kiyomi grinned. I might join in as well then. I don't remember anything about it, so it might be fun for me to do since I'm going to be here for 1.5 months. Shiro smiled. Arriving at the training hall, they could see Lysandra sparring with 3 members at once. Following her advice on using blindfolds, Lysandra practiced enhancing her senses in combat. Ho ho, working hard are we? Kiyomi called out with a smile. Ah, Branch Master, you've returned. The members all bowed since Kiyomi was quite a regular in the training hall. Yup, it took a while, but man, you guys must have had quite a crazy few days, especially with the huge spell that night, huh? Shame I wasn't here. Kiyomi grinned. Definitely. The pressure was ridiculous, you know? Even though it was fired off at the top of the tower, we were still pushed back. One of the members nodded. I see. But anyways, you seem to be having some fun time sparring with Lisa here. Kiyomi said, while gesturing to Lysandra, who took off her blindfold. As much as she wanted to just run over and hug her niece, she knew that she couldn't in order to preserve their identities. Oh, you know of her? The member asked curiously. Yeah, she helped me out a little back in the Elven country. Lisa, It's been a while. Why don't you spar with me for the next few days? I might be able to teach you some martial arts. Kiyomi called out. Hearing that she could learn more martial arts, Lysandra's eyes brightened in excitement. It would be a pleasure. Lysandra nodded. Hee hee, I like the look in your eyes. Let's start right now. Kiyomi grinned and went to get one of the better sparring rooms ready. Looking at the two of them being so excited for training, Shiro couldn't help but chuckle. Muscle heads, the lot of them. You speak as though you're not one yourself. Nimue raised an eyebrow. True. In the following days, Shiro spent her time training with Kiyomi and Lysandra. She would practice the Asakura family martial arts along with her own ones. This included the Takamikazuchi sword technique and the mystic sensory arts. As for Keiko, she had finished her documents and had to attend a meeting, so she temporarily left the headquarters for a few days. During this, Shiro did not forget to keep charging the Lotus since it was bound to be something good as it had absorbed an astounding 50 billion MP so far. Before she knew it, half a month had passed, and there were only 2 weeks left until the event. Parrying both Kiyomi and Lysandra's punches, Shiro stepped back a little before redirecting all of their force to each other. Asterisk bang bang. Colliding into one another, Kiyomi couldn't help but rub her chin. Damn, big sis, isn't your martial arts a little too powerful? Even though I am holding back a little, it's almost impossible for anyone your level to beat you since you can just redirect most things. Unless they brute force it and overcome the limit on the amount of force you can redirect, they're sitting ducks for you. Kiyomi complained. Well, it's not like yours is any better. You have so much brute force that you can even rip open my rift forcefully just to track me down. Shiro rolled her eyes. That's a little different to this. Kiyomi pouted while looking over to Lysandra. Though I have to say, your talent for learning is monstrous, Lisa. In just 2 weeks, you've already mastered the first few stages of the Asakura family martial arts. If Mom and Dad were to see you, they would no doubt be surprised and have the best trainers teach you. Kiyomi praised. Thank you, but in terms of talent, Mom's better than me. Lysandra blushed. Hey, I don't bother about your mom. She's clearly abnormal. Kiyomi waved. Oi, I'm right here, you know. Shiro's smile twitched. Anyways, how about we go serious for our final spar? There's only 2 weeks left until the orange grade equipment event, so me and Lysandra are going to be setting off soon. Shiro suggested. Sure. Limiting power to level 100 and no third phantom usage for you. Kiyomi replied instantly. No problem. I'll use the Takamikazuchi technique then. Shiro smiled. Setting themselves equal distances apart, Shiro got into a rather relaxed stance. Breathing out lightly, lightning started to flicker around her arms. While this was happening, Keiko was looking down from the only room connected to this hall as they made sure to spar without anyone unwanted peeking at the fight. From what she had seen during this past few weeks, there was a good chance for both Kiyomi and Lysandra to land a few good hits, but Shiro would still win in the end. After all, her reaction, technique, and experience was just simply inhuman. Waiting for a short moment, they looked at each other and nodded their heads. Asterisk bang. Dashing forward in an instant, Shiro used her Takamikazuchi technique and increased her speed dramatically. Since Shiro had demonstrated this move several times during their training sessions, neither Lysandra nor Kiyomi were taken off guard. Stepping back a little, Kiyomi dodged the punch since there was only so much Shiro can do at that speed. They tried to fix it, but the best way was just for her to class up and get another upgrade. While Kiyomi successfully dodged the punch, Lysandra reached out to grab Shiro's attack. Focusing her mind, she knew that she had to grasp the perfect timing in order to utilize all of her martial arts so that she could block the attack. Normally, this would be a stupid move since she knew better than anyone how hard Shiro could punch. However, this was a good time to test the fruits of her training. After observing both Kiyomi and Shiro fight during this period of time, she was bound to pick up a few tricks. Breathing out softly, Lysandra slammed the back of her hand against Shiro's wrist and proceeded to redirect it to the side. Surprised at Lysandra's sudden redirection, Shiro paused in her movements, which opened up a gap for both Lysandra and Kiyomi to attack. Seeing 2 fists fly towards her, Shiro bent her body back before going into a handstand. Kicking the punches, she used the impact to make some distance between them. Lisa, color me impressed. Shiro smiled since there were clearly hints of third phantom being activated. albeit shortly. Thank you. Lysandra blushed slightly after being praised by Shiro. However, just as Shiro praised her, she then flickered in front of Lysandra. Regardless of what the enemy says, don't drop your guard. She smiled and roundhouse kicked Lysandra out of the arena. Ouch, isn't that a bit harsh, sis? Kiyomi flinched. Life is harsh, and so am I. Shiro replied as she appeared behind Kiyomi. Grabbing her arm, Shiro tripped her up before pinning her against the ground. And I believe that should be match set. You two are still a bit too relaxed in a fight, Shiro said with a chuckle and helped Kiyomi up. Walking over to Lysandra, she quickly healed her up. SSSS. I guess. Though you really don't hold back, do you? Kiyomi muttered while massaging her arm. Well, even though it's a spar, you still need to be serious. Shiro shrugged. Packing up all of their stuff in the training hall, they made their way to Keiko as she was waiting in the private room with some food. So you're going back to Varisha now? Keiko asked as the month had flown by so fast. Ignoring the fact that she needed to attend a meeting earlier on, she had spent the rest of her time with Shiro and Kiyomi. Yeah, there's an event happening where I am able to get orange-grade equipment. Plus, I've been away from my friends for a month now, so I want to see how much they've improved. Shiro smiled. Say, why don't I come with you? You can introduce me to your friends as well. Keiko asked with slight anticipation. I don't see the problem. Though you'll have to put a disguise on since it would be quite startling for the other contestants if one of the heroes were to show up. Shiro chuckled. True. I also want to see Lisa's big sister, Een. Since you said that she was quite a glutton, I'll make sure to bring some gifts for her. Keiko smiled. You know, having one of the biggest storage rings around filled to the brim with food isn't exactly the best use for it. Shiro shook her head. What do you mean not the best use? Am I not feeding my niece? If so, then it's useful. Plus, I can get a bunch of these rings if I really need it. Though with the system inventory, these aren't too needed unless you're carrying a house with you. Keiko replied. I suppose so. What about you, Kiyomi? Are you going to come with us? Shiro asked. I want to, but I got some things to do at home. Since Yuki doesn't want your existence to be revealed yet, I can't take you to see Mom and Dad. I'm not sure about how they'll react, but I'm sure they miss you just as much, or even more than we did. Hearing what Kiyomi said, Keiko nodded in agreement since regardless of what had happened between them, they're still parent and child. That's the problem, Their child isn't here now. She's a spirit floating around me, Shiro complained in her mind. Talking for a bit longer, Shiro, Lysandra, and Keiko prepared to leave the city of Tokyo. Keiko had already applied for a short leave and had some of her trusted subordinates stand in for her. Leaving the city with their disguises intact, Shiro looked around to make sure that no one could see them before bringing out her motorbike. Holy, Shiro, where did you get something like this? Keiko exclaimed as she instantly started to circle around the vehicle with an excited glint in her eyes. So she likes motorbikes, huh? Shiro thought with a smile. Much like a child opening their present on Christmas, Keiko simply couldn't sit still and had to examine every part of the bike. I managed to get it from a strange trader. I don't know what parts are in the bike, but I know that when I activate it, it goes quite fast. Shiro replied. Lies. It's not quite fast. It's fast as F***CK. Lysandra shouted out in her mind, but made no change to her expression. As she had suffered from the effects firsthand, she wanted to drag someone down with her. In that case, then what are we waiting for? I want to see how fast it can go. Keiko smiled widely as she can't wait to ride the bike. ####. Well, Keiko cried out in happiness while her hair fluttered behind her. Regardless of how fast Shiro went, Keiko would only find more enjoyment. Lysandra, the one who had wanted to drag Keiko down with her, felt betrayed since she was on the verge of throwing up. Why the hell are you fine with this? She shouted out in her mind as she wanted to cry. Arriving back in Varisha once more, Shiro was quite shocked at how many people were in the city. There are still 2 weeks, and it seems like quite a few people have already gathered. I wonder what it would be like at the actual event. Hell, can they even fit everyone? Shiro mused to herself as the party of 3 made their way into the city. The first thing they did was go to a restaurant to get some food first. So what's the plan? You have 2 weeks to spare. Keiko asked curiously. If it's okay with you, I was just planning on observing for 2 weeks and learning about how the event is held. I also want to see how the party is functioning without my presence. Showing up without disguise would ruin this. Shiro smiled. But since Een is linked to you, wouldn't they find out? Keiko tilted her head. That is true. Shiro muttered since Een would definitely feel a faint connection to her. Narrowing her eyes, Shiro flexed her finger and sent a barely noticeable drone to seek out Een and bribe her to keep quiet with the promise of money and food. Well, I have something planned for that, so we're fine. But for now, why don't we go rent a room for 2 weeks? Shiro suggested. Sure. After eating their fill of food, the trio left the restaurant and started to look around for an inn. So far, due to the sudden influx of people, most of the inns were fully booked out. Even those that wanted to expand their establishment discovered that it was quite overwhelming to have so many adventurers, so they had to give up the thought of making some big money through quantity. Instead, they opted to auction out rooms where people would bid for them at their own pace. Since the people that arrived had some capability as they're competing to get orange-grade equipment, money wasn't too much of an issue for them. Bidding for a single large room, Keiko flicked over a large silver coin since that was more than enough. Gesturing for the innkeeper to keep the change, the three of them started to unpack a little in the room. You might want to hold back on giving large silver willingly like that. We might attract unwanted attention. Shiro chuckled. I suppose. Keiko shrugged since one large silver wasn't much to her. As the leader of one of the top 5 guilds in the world, she counted money in terms of large gold and platinum coins. Anyways, first things first. I need to learn a bit more about the event. Shiro smiled and pulled out a laptop. Tapping away at the keyboard, she soon found a forum board associated with this event. Reading through the page, she memorized it all down so that it would be easier to access when they're halfway through the fight later. The first event was the mounted air battle. Each contestant will be given a special type of mount, and they have to race towards the goal. How one gets to the goal doesn't matter since it will be a giant battle royal at the start. The first 100 contestants to reach the finish line will be given a ticket automatically and be teleported to where the main stadium would be. The rest of the information available was a little outdated since they're based on what happened in the previous events. Only the beginning was consistent, so that was all she could rely on. By the way, Keiko, are you going to join us? Shiro asked curiously. Unfortunately, no. I'm too high level to actually join. I mean, if I joined, it would be quite unfair on the other contestants, wouldn't it? Keiko smiled. True. There are 2 sections for this first area. A C rank selection and A B rank selection. Me, Lysandra and the rest of our party will be going to the C rank selection, so there's a good chance for us to meet. Shiro nodded her head. What's your plan if you meet? Same as usual, tough love I suppose. Shiro grinned. ####. Meanwhile, the party had just finished up with one of the dungeons and returned back to the guild. When Shiro left for Kyoto, the party spent every day training in the dungeons and made sure that their level should be up to par when she returns. After all, Shiro already had quite the advantage in terms of power against those her level, never mind those lower level than her. After the 2 months of rigorous training, Lyrica was proud to say that everyone had managed to reach level 100. Since the dungeon level around this place was a little low, they had also spent the time expanding outwards and finding higher level dungeons out in the world. With the way they threw themselves in the dungeon relentlessly, anyone that saw them would think they're all suicidal, but the pressure had paid off since it was just today that they've leveled up one more time to reach the limit of C class. Right then, everyone should have gotten your class up choices. Don't worry too much about which one you should pick and choose the one that most suits you. Remember, you only have one life, so you need to enjoy it. Lyrica called out with a smile. Her aura had changed to be more outgoing in the 2 months since she was essentially the acting party leader. Sure, but we all know that we'll be picking ones that best suit the party synergy. Madison grinned and patted Lyrica's shoulder. Speaking of which, Een, how does your class up work? You're a phoenix, aren't you? She asked curiously. Oh, me? I'll need to break down my body once more and revert to an egg. Once I'm in that state, I'll need to fulfill certain conditions, and only then would my body be reconstructed and I class up. Een replied. I wonder if you'll grow up like how Shiro did. Lyrica wondered since Shiro had experienced changes to her growth and body whenever she classed up. As Een was still in the body that resembled a child Shiro, she should be closer to a teen Shiro after this class up. Something like that. Een shrugged. Just as she replied, she felt a sudden connection fluctuate and knew that Shiro must have returned to the city. "I think Mom's back," Een said as everyone in the party looked over in interest. "How can you tell?" Lyrica asked. As many would say, absence makes the heart grow fonder. During this time, she had missed Shiro dearly, and while she is able to control her display of affection much better than before, that was only on the outside. It's kinda like this. Since Mum hatched me, and we formed a contract of sorts, I can always feel a faint connection regardless of distance. Should she be closer to me, the stronger the connection becomes. Een explained. However, before she could continue, she felt a tiny object land near her ear. "Een, darling, don't tell them I'm back yet. I'm going to disguise myself in the event and see how much they've grown. If you do good, I'll reward you with money and the biggest storage ring available full of food my cousin brought back from Tokyo." Shiro's voice rang out. Since it was through the nanobot, only Een could hear what Shiro was saying, and after hearing the mention of a storage ring full of food, her mouth couldn't help but water as her stomach rumbled a little. "You sure that connection ain't just you getting hungry again?" Madison raised her eyebrows. Asterisk cough asterisk, I think it might be the case. Een replied with a slight blush. Some shame is a small price to pay for a pantry of food. I knew it. Though I wonder when Shiro will come back. There's only a short amount of time left till the event, isn't there? Madison shrugged since Een had pulled this stunt a few times in order to get more food out of the party. At this point, they were used to her shenanigans. However, Lyrica could detect the rare trace of seriousness on Yin's face when she said that. Seems like Shiro's back, and she wants to observe for a bit. Lyrica thought with a soft smile. Indeed. I suppose it's a perfect time to show off your mastered sword arts that you've inherited from me. Yuan Tian chuckled. Indeed, but I don't plan on showing it too easily. This is a huge stage. After all, doing so would just be exposing our trump cards. Lyrica shook her head. Since Shiro was already back, she was going to make sure she performs well in the event while also keeping her trump cards in order to surprise Shiro. Only then would she demonstrate how much she's improved. In the time leading up to the event, Shiro had scouted out the people who had joined. She would then categorize them into two sections, the idiot section and the normal section. The idiot section were those that blatantly radiate their aura and try to eliminate some people before the event even starts. They're the ones that don't know about the people stronger than them and were quite naive in thinking that their power could suffice without any strategy. In addition to these two sections, Shiro had also managed to figure out some who seemed to be quite powerful despite their lack of aura. That was because they had this special kind of intensity to them that can't be seen in inexperienced people. During the time leading up to the event, Shiro had almost camouflaged herself and started to observe the party from afar. She was glad that everyone had reached level 100, and now all that remains was for them to class up. And before she knew it, the 2 weeks had passed, and the event was about to begin. ####. Well, damn. First thing in the morning, and you can't even see the pavement anymore. Shiro muttered while looking out of the window. *Yon. Because today is even day, isn't it? Most people like to just arrive on the day so they don't have to buy lodgings when the price is clearly higher than normal. Keiko replied a little absent-mindedly while rubbing her eyes. Stretching her body, Keiko got dressed. On one of the other beds, Lysandra was still sleeping since Shiro didn't forget to train her in these 2 weeks. While they were limited in what they could do, training was still training. Let's go sign up now. One of the booths should have opened nearby. But damn, why the hell would they have them open on the day rather than the days before the event? It's just gonna make things annoying. Keiko complained. Well, maybe that's how they wanted it. Those that arrive late or wake up late would find a harder time to register and in turn get eliminated indirectly. Shiro shrugged. Changing into a different outfit that she had obtained, she was going to participate as an archer. Since her magic was quite recognizable, going as an archer would make it harder for her identity to be discovered. Her new outfit consisted of a red and black jacket with silver armor adored around the shoulders, elbows, and waist. The hem of the jacket was extended to around her knees. She wore some black leather pants along with a pair of red armored boots. Tying her hair into a ponytail, Shiro changed her disguise so that she had black hair and black eyes. Her face was also changed so that it was more of a reserved beauty that would slowly show itself the more you look. With the Asteria's embrace strapped to her back, She looked at her appearance in the mirror and nodded her head. "What do you think?" Shiro asked with a smile. "Pretty good, but Shiro, do you even have any archery skills?" Keiko asked since a disguise is all well and good, but if she was going as an archer, she needed to use skills that don't expose her identity as a mage. Omicron. Ever heard of unconventional archers? Shiro smiled. "Yes, I have, but even if you go as an unconventional archer, you still need some skills." Keiko raised her eyebrow. "That's where this bow comes into play. At day, my arrows are changed into powerful one-shot arrows. With my body control, I can be a hit-and-run archer. Plus, I have a few decorations that have some archery skills embedded into them, so it's fine." Shiro replied. Her silver armor was actually created from her nanobots, and each of them had a different archery-based skill embedded into them. 3 were passives that helped out with her handling of the bow, while the other 2 were active skills that she had recycled previously. The first active skill was one called Sequential Exploit. If your arrow lands a critical, you fire a second arrow immediately. Should that get a crit as well, a third arrow will be fired. With every subsequent arrow after the third, your crit chance will get a penalty of -10%. However, Shiro had a way to somewhat counter this decrease in crit chance, and that was one of her passive recycled skills. Archer's Sight. Every time you manage to land a critical strike on a crit chance of less than 20%, you'll gain a 100% critical chance for a short period of time. As for the second active skill, it was Snare Arrow. Firing an arrow in the nearby area would instantly explode into a snare trap. Should a person be snared within the first 5 seconds of activation, they'll be rooted for 1 second. Should they be snared after the 5-second mark, they'll be rooted for 3 seconds. This skill prioritizes the tactic of setting up traps, but Shiro can easily deal with them in this second. Plus, even if she did need to set up the trap, she can synergize her illusion skill and trick them into entering her 3-second snare. I swear, at this point, with the amount of skills you've recycled from armors, weapons, and items, you can effectively play as every class should you want to. Only hindering factor would be your stats, but archers only really need dexterity and agility, so you have that covered. Nimue sighed and couldn't help but think that life is unfair. Well, the Snowmancer class was a triple S class before upgrading to EX. This much is to be expected, you know. Shiro replied. While she cannot modify or recycle set-based items and equipment, singular pieces are easily within her grasp. It was just a matter of finding the right equipment to recycle and getting the most out of them. I get that, but to think that this is a man-made class with such power is just inconceivable. Nimue shook her head. Well, life is unfair, I suppose, haha. Shiro replied before returning her focus back to reality. So, while me and Lisa go to this event, what are you going to do? Shiro asked. Me? I think I'll probably pay the city lord a visit, then watch from the stands. Keiko shrugged. Hell, well, I suppose I'll be regrouping with the party after this, so it should be fine. Shiro nodded. Giving Lysandra a disguise along with a new outfit, they made their way out of the inn and towards the registration stand. Since they woke up early in the morning, the queue wasn't as daunting, and it only took them around 45 minutes to reach the front. Signing up with the name Kasumi and the class Grand Archer Sage, Shiro then had Lysandra sign up with the name Chizu and a Grand Swordmaster class. After some verification procedures, of which Shiro tampered with, they were given 2 badges and signify their admission to the event. Please stand by for now as the event will start at 12 p.m. The person smiled. Okay, Shiro nodded. Leaving with Lysandra following behind them, they spent this time just going around and checking out the stalls that foreign adventurers had set up. There were a few pieces of equipment that had rather decent skills, so Shiro decided to purchase them and recycle it into her database. With all of her skills in the database, she could theoretically pass off as an archer, swordsman, tank, spearman, and assassin. The only one that's difficult would be support since her buffs were quite self-orientated and she only had 1 decent healing skill that can be used constantly. Around 11 p.m., the ground started to shake as Shiro wondered if it was an attack. The first thing that she did was get some high ground and prepare to attack with her bow. But when she saw the source of the tremor, she couldn't help but raise an eyebrow. The ground beneath them split apart as a giant tower of sorts could be seen rising into the sky. Eventually, the height of such a tower surpassed the tallest point of Varisha and continued to rise. Understanding that this may very well be the event location, Shiro wondered why it was different to the past years despite the previous consistency. Seems like this year's event is a little special. Shiro muttered with a smile. Once the time hit 12 p.m., a deep bell toll rang out as a hologram was projected into the city. Stage 1. Race to the center tower. Each of you that have completed registration will be allowed to enter a 500-meter radius of the tower. When you do, you'll enter a barrier, and should you take a certain amount of damage, you'll be ejected out of the barrier. The first 100 people to reach the center room of the tower will be given admission into the next round. Reading the hologram, Shiro instantly jumped into the rift with Lysandra. Of course, she used Fey illusions to disguise her rift so that people can't tell it's her through this skill. In addition to this, since there were only 100 spots, she had to guarantee that her party succeeded through acting as a gatekeeper of sorts. If she can reach the center room, she can snipe people with her bow and stop them from entering. Plus, with so many assassin-type adventurers in this event, they had the advantage of speed, so she couldn't wait around. Reinforcing her body along with using the Takamikazuchi technique, lighting flared around her as she increased her speed even more. Lysandra wasn't too far behind either, as she had learned how to reinforce her body as well. While she wasn't as fast as Shiro, she wasn't too far behind. Upon leaving the rift, Shiro was about to enter again to increase her speed, but noticed that an all-out battle had already begun around her. There were people who had the philosophy of eliminating as many people as they can. Should they eliminate enough, they'll get one of the 100 places through the lack of participants. Though it seemed like Een was part of that category since she was flying in the air and throwing out flickers of dark star as if they were candy. Ha, let me get rid of you all so it's easier for everyone else. Een grinned. One of the stray flickers was about to hit Shiro when she snapped her fingers and erased it by using her void star element. TCH, damn stupid daughter of mine, can't even hold back destruction for a while. Even after a month, she's still as brash as usual. Shiro thought to herself with a click of a tongue. Aren't you the one who thought about eliminating a bunch of people after you reached the entrance? Nimue raised an eyebrow. At least I can wait a little before making a move. Shiro rolled her eyes. Pot calling the kettle black. Nimue muttered while Shiro used her martial arts to eliminate a few people around her. Looking above the current fighting area, Shiro could see a number count of all those that have passed. For the B-class participants, 25 people have already succeeded, while only 10 have succeeded for the C-class ones. Despite her advantage in stats, 10 people had managed to reach the center before her. This made Shiro frown since she knew she had to hurry up and that quite a few powerful assassins have appeared in this event. Getting an idea on how to get a quick boost out of her situation, Shiro gestured for Lysandra to grab onto her. Pulling back on her bowstring, Shiro jumped up into the air before flipping her body and fired her bow behind her. With her activating a mana shield which stopped the damage from sending her out of the arena, both she and Lysandra flew over the crowd of people. There were a few adventurers that had sent spells their way, but Lysandra would reinforce her sword and slash at the spells, stopping them from harming the two of them. Jumping into the rift once more, Shiro repeated this process until they were just outside of the entrance of the tower. Looking back, she saw a rather strange decision for the party. Getting Een to drop Madison out in the middle of the crowd, Shiro saw Lyrica shouting out some words before Madison activated a mass taunt after Sylvia buffed her chances of success. Instantly, everyone's attention snapped towards Madison. What is she planning? Shiro thought curiously. Activating her avatar, Madison blocked the attacks while the main party made a quick dash towards the tower. For those that didn't get affected by the taunt, Chinyu would eliminate them himself. As they approached the tower, Aram smiled and jumped up slightly. Twirling her staff, a shockwave of mana pulsed outwards as Madison teleported beside her. Everyone that was taunted lost their target and started to attack one another while the main part had almost reached the tower. When did Aram have a teleport skill? Shiro raised her eyes in surprise before entering the tower. Since they were this close and the number of successful participants so far were low, there was a good chance for them to be qualified. Entering the tower, Shiro saw that it was a labyrinth of sorts. Her face was uninterested since this was nothing in front of her Rift Strider skill. All she needed to do was get an understanding of the layout before jumping into the rift. Pressing her palms against the wall, Shiro scanned the labyrinth while Lysandra held the enemies at bay. Grab on, she called out to Lysandra before jumping into the rift. While this was all happening, the city lord was currently observing her situation with a Keiko, who was a rather surprising guest. You have quite a few talented adventurers this year, don't you? Keiko smiled as the city lord chuckled. He was a middle-aged man with dark hair and a short stubble. Currently, he wore a smart suit which made his physique seem thin, but Keiko knew that he had great strength behind those muscles. Alvin LVL 200 Armageddon Sentinel. Haha. Well, I had done this in preparation for a certain troublemaker that was admitted into the Winter's Grace. But seeing as though she's not present in the event, it seems like I had prepared a little too much. Alvin replied. Oh, which troublemaker would make a city lord like you change the event just to accommodate them? Keiko raised an eyebrow in curiosity. Oh, it's this girl called Shiro that's joined Winter's Grace as a guest elder. Her power is quite impressive for her class, but she seemed quite volatile for a lack of a better word. You see, during one of the events hosted by the faction, she had challenged quite a few of the faction members before taking a portion of their resources. She is a physical-based mage that has mastery over quite a few elements. Though I do wonder what she'll be like in the future, as multitasking with the class is quite a risky maneuver. Alvin replied after thinking for a moment. Upon hearing what Shiro had done, Keiko almost choked on her saliva as she couldn't help but look at Alvin in confusion. Wait, she robbed her own faction members of resources? Yeah, I think it was something to do with her status as a guest elder, but her resources are a lot less than normal elders. Alvin shrugged before looking back at the fight. Though even without her, it seems like I would have needed to prepare. Ignoring the assassins that are extremely speed-based at the start, I can already pick out a few powerful people that we should keep our eyes on. First is that archer woman. So far, she's only revealed 3 skills, but I can already tell that her skill management and control are impressive. A speed boost, area of effect, and a barrier. Alvin smiled as Keiko couldn't help but narrow her eyes slightly. He's already detected Shiro despite not knowing her real identity. Damn. Cousin, why do you gain attention everywhere you go? Keiko wondered while Alvin pointed out a few others that he was interested in. ####. Arriving in the center room, Shiro looked around to see if there was a place that she could eliminate some other contestants. However, noticing that there were only a center console and tall walls, she eventually decided to sit still and wait for the others to arrive. Shiro was going to make a nice platform for her to sit down on, but stopped when she remembered that she was supposed to be an archer right now. Shaking her head, she stood by the walls with Lysandra and examined the ones that arrived before her. Noticing that all of them were assassins, Shiro couldn't help but feel like the later rounds would be easy. Assassins were troublesome with their agility and burst damage. However, to beat an annoying opponent, you just had to annoy them more than they do you. Ever heard of an archer that just suddenly disappears before launching 20 powerful arrows at you? No? Well, you're about to. You've caught her finally? Whoops, sorry, she disappeared again. Waiting in the center room, Shiro saw others that arrived, but there were no signs of the party yet. Furrowing her brows, she wondered if she should head out when a man suddenly approached her. Miss Kasumi and Miss Chizu, sorry to disturb you, but I was wondering if you wanted to team up? The man asked with a smile. Team up? What do you mean by that? Shiro replied while looking at his name tag. Lorenzo LVL 100 Wind Strider Assassin. You see, as I am an assassin, getting to this area quickly is easy enough. But for the later rounds where combat might be a big part or should there be teamwork involved, it would be handy to have some talented teammates. Of course, once we reach the later rounds, this temporary team would disband and we'll fight for the orange grade equipment. But until then, we'll help each other and reach the last few rounds. What do you think? Lorenzo asked with a smile. Thinking about it for a moment, Shiro eventually shook her head. Thanks, but no thanks. Everyone's fighting for the same goal. I'd much rather we compete fairly. Shiro replied. In that case, then I won't disturb you any longer. Lorenzo smiled before reaching out his hand for a handshake. Deeming it rude to reject, Shiro accepted the handshake. Watching Lorenzo leave, she activated analysis and looked at her hand in case he had decided to pull something suspicious. Immediately detecting a mark of sorts, Shiro narrowed her eyes and crushed it with the help of Celestial Path. Looking up in shock, Lorenzo felt the mark he set on Shiro disappear as he glanced back only to see Shiro glare at him with some killing intent. OSH*T. I might have misjudged this one, he thought to himself before quickly making his way far from her. However, he did not realize that Shiro had done the same to him. A nanobot was currently on his body and waiting for the moment to explode and send him out of the competition. Seeing Shiro glare at that man, Lysandra couldn't help but raise her eyebrows in confusion. Did he do anything, Mom? Lysandra asked curiously. Somewhat. He placed a mark on me which might allow him to eliminate me, hence why I got rid of it. Though he doesn't realize I've done the same, so you bet I'll be kicking his ass out of this event when the opportunity arrives. Shiro replied quietly while keeping her eyes on the entrance to the center room. Thankfully, the party had arrived around the 60 people mark, causing Shiro to sigh in relief. Man, that labyrinth was annoying. We ran into so many assassins it's not even funny. Madison sighed while massaging her arm. Yeah, if not for your taunt skill, there would have been more people arriving here and we might not even get a chance to pass. Sylvia nodded. Well, at least we've passed now. Let's take this chance to recuperate since we don't know what the next round is. Lyrica smiled as the party sat down next to the walls. Looking at the party, Shiro couldn't help but pause in shock since she just saw Ian give everyone some food from her own reserves. Hold up, what the hell happened to Ian? If she's the glutton I know, she would never give away her own food. Shiro thought to herself. Lysandra was also shocked at Yin's change in character and couldn't help but wonder if her big sister had been brainwashed in these 2 months or not. Sending a small nanobot to check out what had happened, Shiro listened in on their conversation. Remember, you have to pay me back triple for the food I give you, okay? Ian said seriously as the party nodded. Yeah, we get it. You don't have to say it all the time, you know, Ian. Madison laughed. Food is my way of living, so if you don't give back my food, I'll be annoyed, you know. Ian pouted. Yes, but are you really going to go through your storage ring of food? It's something we got from the dungeons, but the space in the ring is still quite big, you know. Madison replied while pointing at her ring. Is that a challenge? I'll show you the act of me emptying out my ring right here and now. Ian replied in annoyance. To think they would look down upon her mite of eating, how naive. Immediately retracting her nanobot, Shiro couldn't help but sigh. The stupid daughter of mine is still the same, but this time she's only giving away her food because the party said they'll pay her back triple. Shiro shook her head. Hearing what Shiro had just said, Lysandra couldn't help but smile awkwardly. Well, I guess it's good that Big Sis is the same as usual. In a way, I suppose. Shiro shrugged. While they were chatting, Lyrica had been scanning the room for anyone that could possibly be Shiro. With her capabilities, there was a good chance for her to arrive much earlier than them. Looking at all the female adventurers around, she marked down those that reminded her most of Shiro. The highest one on her list was a girl called Kasumi with the class Grand Archer Sage. While the look, temperament, and class were completely different, there were still habits that Shiro couldn't completely mask. However, she wasn't completely certain, and it was just speculation for now. I trust in your Shiro radar, so that woman has a good chance of being Shiro. Yuan Tian chuckled. Oh please, what the hell do you mean by Shiro radar? Lyrica rolled her eyes. ####. Soon, the 100 passing candidates had been gathered in the center room as a hologram appeared in the center. Stage 2. Hidden Danger. In this game, there are 10 slayers chosen out of the group of 100. The group of 100 will then be split into teams of 10, and you will be trying to complete puzzles and tasks to get to the next round. Should the slayers be able to sabotage 3 or more people in their team, they'll be given a free pass to skip the next round. Should they fail, they'll be eliminated. Teams will be assigned randomly on the screen. Please regroup into your new teams. Reading the hologram, Shiro glanced at her badge and noticed that she was marked down as a slayer. Seems like I'm chosen. Shiro whispered over to Lysandra. I'm not chosen. We're not in the same group either. Lysandra replied. The main party had also been split up as each of them were put into groups where they didn't know each other. Looking at her own group, Shiro realized that she had been put together with Sylvia, while Lysandra was put in the same team as Madison. Good luck. Try to be careful, though. Shiro smiled. Amen, you too, Mom. Lysandra nodded and made her way towards her new team for now, while Shiro did the same. Right then, it seems like we're part of the same team after all. Lorenzo chuckled as he saw Shiro walking their way. Oh please, we both know it's luck that I'm actually on your team. Shiro replied. Sure, it was luck, but not exactly good luck, since a good way to guarantee that Sylvia passed was to eliminate everyone apart from the two of them. But if she did that, it would be suspicious, so she'll probably be going for around 3 to 5 eliminations. Well, I don't need introductions since we're only going to be in a team for one round. But for now, let's work together to pass this round. I have an idea, and that's pairing up with a partner and doing the test in pairs. If they come back without their partner, there's a good chance that they're the Slayer. Lorenzo suggested as the others nodded their heads. So how are we going to split the teams then? One of the assassins on their team asked. Simple, we'll just group up in the order that our names are displayed on the screen. Lorenzo smiled. Looking at the screen, Shiro saw that she was paired up with a girl called Summer. She was an archer much like Shiro, but didn't like to talk much. She only stood next to her and waited. After the pairs were sorted, they waited for the hologram to show them the activity that they needed to do. Looking at the description for the puzzle, it seems like they had to read out runes while a designated person would enter in the password. The way this works is that there is a central platform and 4 rooms. Each of the rooms will have a small wave of monsters, and one of the adventurers would need to protect someone while they read out the rune and its position in the password. Once all 4 runes are collected in the right order, they'll be allowed into the next level of this stage. The Slayer would need to either A, delay the situation and let the monsters eliminate the people, or B, they do it themselves. Since they're moving in pairs, the Slayer would be revealed should they sabotage too obviously. This also forces them to be the ones that have to think about what they're doing in order to pass successfully. Then again, the reward for succeeding is a free pass to the next round, so the task must be hard. However, for Shiro, this was easy to bypass. Right then, who's going to be in the center platform? Shiro said with a smile. Instantly, the people on the team became wary since they can't have the Slayer be in the center platform, or else they can lie about the order of the sequence and use the time to eliminate one of the people without anyone else realizing. Since we don't know who the Slayer is, why don't we take a gamble and assign someone random? I'm going to spin my sword, and whoever it points towards will be in the center platform. Of course, you guys can keep a watch on me so that you know I haven't tampered with the spin with my mana. One of the warriors suggested. Sure, I'm fine with that. Shiro nodded since this didn't really affect her. Regardless of who was chosen to be in the center, Shiro can take 3 people with ease. Spinning the sword, the warrior stepped back and waited for it to finish. Eventually, it landed on Shiro's group, which caused Shiro to raise her eyebrows. Welp, it seems like it's us then. Shiro smiled while looking at Summer. MN. Summer nodded but said nothing else. Heh, this girl is a quiet one. Shiro thought to herself. All right, now that the teams are sorted, let's go. Walking over to the teleport circle that seemed to have appeared behind them, Shiro watched as her other party members were also teleported in their respective teams. Good luck, Shiro muttered in her mind as they flickered from their spot. When her vision cleared, they were on a stone platform that seemed to be surrounded by the empty void. Nodding to each other, they jogged towards their spots as Shiro and Summer readied their bow in case the Slayer were to make a move now and eliminate 3 people quickly. Arriving at the main console, Shiro saw that it was a holographic rune board that housed all the runes with 4 empty slots in the center. Do you want to be the one using this, or shall I? Shiro asked. You can. Summer replied, since the one using the keyboard would be in more danger. They wouldn't be able to react as easily to a sneak attack, and Summer knew that she couldn't trust anyone but herself during this test. Sure, I don't mind. Shiro nodded. Center platform ready. She called out. Team 1 ready. Lorenzo shouted out since he was the guardian of Team 1, and he would need to clear the wave of monsters. This was perfect for Shiro since she could get a clear view of his position. Though it wasn't as if it was too important since her nanobot could give her his position to begin with. Receiving positive responses from the other teams, they started to test. Looking over at Team 4, where Sylvia was, Shiro realized that she must have been the one to read out the runes. Well, that makes things a bit easier, I suppose. As the monsters started to spawn, Shiro narrowed her eyes slowly as her lips curved into a smile. Just before the first rune was shouted out, she flexed her finger a little and detonated the nanobot hidden on Lorenzo's body. Asterisk bang. All of a sudden, His body was flung up into the air, and all the other guardians snapped their attention towards Team 1. Found the Slayer, Shiro shouted out before nodding towards Summer. Dashing towards Team 1 with her bow drawn, the two archers had the same intention of eliminating the Slayer quickly. Little did Summer know, Shiro was in fact the Slayer. Seeing the two center archers dash towards Team 1, the rest of the guardians called out to their partners and had them come out since they were going to regroup. Vaulting over the monsters with ease, she twisted her body and pulled back on her bowstrings. Looking at the frightful face of the one who was supposed to shout out the rune, Shiro couldn't help but look at him with pity. Sorry, it's nothing personal, Shiro thought to herself before firing her arrow. Asterisk bang. Exploding into a burst of flames, the adventurer was eliminated before he could even shout out that he was innocent. Seems like we're done, Shiro called out to Summer with a smile. Furrowing her brows, Summer nodded and started to make her way back to the center. However, just as she turned her back, she felt a burst of mana slam into her back as she was sent flying forward from the impact. Turning around to look back at Shiro, she saw that Shiro had an apologetic smile on her face. Crap, was all Summer could mutter before she was eliminated. Walking out of where Team 1 was supposed to be, Shiro looked at the other teammates that were instantly on guard since they realized that they've been played. Don't be so on guard. I've already got 3 of them, so I'm done with this round. Shiro waved her hand nonchalantly before narrowing her eyes. Unless you want to fight some more? Regardless, I've already passed, so anything after this is just for fun. She grinned. One of the assassins seemed to be annoyed as his body disappeared and reappeared beside her. However, before he could even attack, Shiro had already spun around and slammed her foot against the back of his head. Cracking his body against the ground, Shiro pulled back on her bow and eliminated him. Anyone else like this F***CK would over here? She smiled. Flinching a little, the rest of the teammates stepped back a little while Sylvia had a frown on her face. Despite the intimidation she felt from this Kasumi, she wanted to stand her ground. Raising an eyebrow, Shiro kept her eye on Sylvia. Some backbone, huh? She smiled. Maybe, but since you've already eliminated 3, I doubt there was a need to provoke the rest of us now. Sylvia smiled while preparing some of her spells discreetly. I suppose so. However, we still need to complete this round, so if you want, I can just watch as you do it, or I can help. Shiro chuckled. Seeing as though there were only 5 of them left, it meant that there were on guardians to help them should they choose to not receive her assistance. It's fine, Miss Kasumi can just sit by the side. Everyone, I'll be on the center console and set a barrier on everyone so that you can read out the runes. Sylvia proposed as they nodded. But what about this girl here? Are you sure she won't attack you since she basically has a free pass? One of the teammates gestured towards Shiro. Don't worry, I promise I won't interfere anymore. Like I said, if you want, I can even help out. Shiro chuckled. No need. Sylvia shook her head. Giving out roles once more, Sylvia stood at the console while Shiro watched from the distance with interest. She wanted to see how Sylvia was going to help everyone else out. Slamming her staff against the ground, a wave of mana pulsed outwards as a quadruple-layered barrier wrapped around everyone else apart from Shiro. Activating her analysis skill, Shiro saw that the barrier gave them a health boost, attack boost, speed boost, and a barrier that was equal to around 60% of their health from what she could tell. Well damn, she's gotten quite a powerful spell in the time I was gone, huh? Shiro mused to herself. Well, it has been 2 months. A lot of things can change. Nimue chipped in. Very true. With Sylvia's distant support, the team was able to reach the runes without much trouble and complete the task with relative ease. As the team was teleported into the next stage, Shiro saw a ticket of sorts appear before her. Congratulations, as you have completed a Slayer's task, you are now given a free pass to the next level. Please, insert the ticket to the main console in the room, and you'll be transported to an observation deck for now. Reading the hologram, Shiro nodded and walked over to the main console. Looking around, Shiro saw that most of the teams had finished with Lysandra's team being one of them. As they have 9 people in their group, she can guess that they managed to eliminate the Slayer before anyone was eliminated. However, looking at one of the other teams, Shiro noticed that Madison had been eliminated and couldn't help but frown. She's got one of the best defenses and skills to counter an assassin, How did she get eliminated? Shiro thought to herself. Counting the amount of people on the team, Shiro noticed that they were missing exactly 3 people, meaning the Slayer only eliminated those that were necessary. As she was walking towards the main console, she saw the other Slayer. Wrapped in a hooded cloak, the person seemed to be quite light on their feet since their speed was quite fast despite their walking posture. But since their features and body shape was wrapped under the hooded cloak, Shiro couldn't tell if they were male or female. They also had a disguise on their name tag, so she couldn't see their class either. I'll probably have to keep an eye on them in the next round. Shiro thought to herself before inserting her ticket to the console. A teleporting circle appeared beneath her as she was teleported to a rather luxurious room. There were comfortable seats and snacks laid out by the side, while a huge window was there to allow her to observe the next round. However, as Shiro didn't notice this mirror before, she realized that it must be a one-sided mirror. Hearing a sound behind her, Shiro saw the other Slayer appear in the room. Seems like we both get a free pass, Shiro said with a smile, but was ignored. Pulling up one of the chairs to the window, the Slayers started to observe, while Shiro could only shake her head before doing the same. ####. That was quite an unfair round for the Slayers, no? Since the moment they make a move, they'll be detected. Except for those 2 exceptions, everyone else was eliminated. If they failed, they were going to be eliminated anyways. Keiko raised an eyebrow. While Slayers are supposed to be exceptions to begin with, you might think that the Slayer role is given at random, but it's there to challenge the ones we deem to be most powerful in the groups. Should they be able to prove that they were indeed powerful, they'll get a free pass. But if they fall under our expectations, they'll be eliminated. It's simple like that. We wouldn't choose a weak person to have the Slayer role after all. Alvin laughed. However, there seems to be a few that bypass this as they've hidden their strength well. The warrior from Team 5 was such, destroying a part of the arena with a single hit and taking the Slayer out the moment they showed any suspicious movement. He narrowed his eyes. Indeed. Keiko nodded. However, in the end, she didn't have much to complain about since Shiro had passed, but the other Slayer was also going to be troublesome. She had watched them eliminate those on his team with ease. The main thing about him was that his sword was a lot faster than what was displayed. There was a lag of sorts with the visuals of his sword. Similar to the rare swordsman skill, refraction, this skill was one that strikes faster than what is demonstrated rather than reposition. A troublesome opponent if you cannot react at the last moment. With how Shiro is, I doubt she'll lose. But her teammates cannot let their guard down. Keiko thought to herself. ####. Seeing as how Madison was eliminated, Lyrica frowned before calling over all of their party members. It seems like we'll need to be careful of the 2 Slayers next round. For one of them to be able to eliminate Madison despite her defenses, they're definitely going to be troublesome. Sylvia, are you able to tell us anything about the female Slayer that was on your team? Lyrica asked. She's definitely troublesome. From what I can see, she excels in speed and reactions. One of the assassins had tried to get her, but the moment he reappeared, the archer had already slammed his head into the ground and eliminated him. As for skill with her class, we were unfortunately not able to find out due to the fact that we weren't able to force her to use any of her skill. Sylvia shook her head. That's quite annoying. But at least you weren't eliminated. Lyrica sighed. MN. Speaking of troublesome people, there was this one guy in my team that you should definitely be wary of. Aram spoke up. Oh, what do you mean by that? Lyrica raised an eyebrow. You see, when the Slayer tried to attack him, the man had eliminated a large portion of the arena and had almost swept me along with it. If it wasn't for me having a barrier ready just in case and it barely missing me, I would have been eliminated as well. For a person to display that much power in the second round, I can say for certain that this is far from 100% strength. There are 2 possibilities. Either he's an idiot that had to go all out, or he's confident enough to show this much power in the second round. Aram replied seriously. That is indeed a problem. Just stay cautious for now then. Since there are 75 participants left, ignoring the 2 Slayers, this round may be a brutal one that will eliminate quite a large number of people. From the information provided in past events, this round would usually put the number of people below 50, or in some cases, 30. We'll keep our guard up and show some of our trump cards if needed, but remember to keep your best skills hidden for now. We don't want to expose ourselves too fast. Lyrica instructed as they all nodded. The next round was that of a boss fight of sorts. People will be randomly assigned into teams, and depending on their class, they'll each be given grading objectives. The lowest 10 grades on each team will get eliminated. If the team has healers, there will be waves of enemies on top of this, so that she'll have to make sure her healing is on point. One can still get eliminated in the fight should they take too much damage from the boss, and if they do, a penalty will be inflicted onto the healer's score for letting a teammate die. But on the flip side, if a teammate tried to sabotage the healer on the team through intentionally taking too much damage, the healer will not get a penalty for their actions. Assigning the teams, Lyrica and Sylvia were paired up while Chunyu and Aram were a part of a pair, as well while Een was on the same team as the guy Aram warned them about. Each of the teams were composed of 25 people as 3 doors appeared around the room. Please enter a door and face the boss. Reading the hologram, they each nodded to each other before entering. Meanwhile, the successful slayers were given a choice to enter 2 pods that will allow them to navigate the 3 rooms and observe everyone. Getting into one of these without hesitation, her first destination was going to be the team with Lyrica and Sylvia. With a buffer like Sylvia on her side, Shiro wanted to see how well Lyrica could perform. With 10 people being eliminated, Lyrica needed to find the right balance of holding back and displaying her prowess. I wonder if I'll be able to see any new skills that she has obtained in the 2 months I've been gone. There's a good chance since 10 is quite a large number for a team of 25. For those that are insecure, they'll be going all out to try obtain a good spot. Nimue said, while she was also observing the situation. As they're Shiro's close friends and party members, there will be a time where they might need to help with the spirits in the coming age of gods and demons, so she wanted to see how powerful they were after 2 months. And with that, the fight against the boss began.
Thank you for watching. I hope you enjoyed today's episode. If you did, please like, share, and subscribe.